Ooh, I got lots of things for you on this one. We're going to talk about an FBI raid that happened, and I've got some information on Trump, a couple of clips by him, and just all kinds of things. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I wanted to start with this by Liz Crokin because this is a really great little video. Trump does the unthinkable. And if you go through this, she used to be, a journalist for the mainstream media, and she was covering Trump all the time. But the problem was every time she got tips that he was doing something bad, really salacious or whatever, she found out it wasn't true, and it was really frustrating for her. So I'm going to leave the link to this clip down below because I just think it's a really good one. And I think she's been doing a series of different things because she wrote an article. Let's see, where does it say? She wrote an article titled Trump Does the Unthinkable in 2016 because I was so disgusted at the lies the mainstream media and loudmouth celebrities were spreading about then presidential candidate Donald Trump. So it's just very interesting that she has done this, and I think it is something that a lot of people need to see. This was her perspective on him before he became president. And you know what? A lot of people had this perspective, and then all of a sudden he declared he was running, and what happened then? His name was mud. So, he's gone through a lot. He's sacrificed a lot. I think people need to hear this. Okay, so I'm going to leave the link down below. I always put them down in the description. You may have to click something to make it open up, but they'll be there. So you can check them out for yourself and spread the material that I give you because that's what I'm trying to get people to do. I want to give you information so you can then share it with others. We need to get this information out there. People need to hear it. Well, I listened to this one today, and it was from Sunday morning, even though I'm recording this on Tuesday night. But there's something in this I want you to listen carefully to, okay? So here we go.
I mean, I was particularly struck by Dianne Feinstein because didn't she have a driver for 20 years that we ended up finding out was a Chinese spy?
We did. You'll recall she meets with some frequency with Foreign Minister Zarif there too. There's something not quite right.
Ah, did you hear that? Who else was she meeting with? Yes, Iran's Foreign Minister Zarif. Something's not quite right, you think? So Pompeo's aware of what's going on. And this was actually a very good interview if you want to listen to the whole thing. They're really ramping up about China because China has put so many spies into different positions, and this is how they work. They go through infiltration instead of invasion. They don't need to invade if they can infiltrate, and they've been doing a really good job of doing that lately. So I wanted to share this with you, and I'll leave the link to it down below so you can watch the full thing. But yeah, that particular comment right there, I think it probably went over a lot of people's heads because they didn't know who Zarif was that he was referring to, but that's Iran's foreign minister. And what was Dianne Feinstein doing? Meeting with him. You gotta wonder, don't you? Well, let's go on. Here's a clip of Ted Cruz, and this is what he played at the opening of the Senate subcommittee. They were talking about Antifa and everything.
And to understand just what is happening on the ground, what the heroic men and women of law enforcement are facing right now, it's helpful to see directly what's occurring, and there's a video that should display this now.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. To stand up for freedom together, so let freedom ring.
A passionate movement for justice is finding itself swept under the feet of rampaging and destructive mobs.
People will do what they do.
Not
that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
77-year-old David Dorn was shot to death as a pawn shop he was protecting was being looted.
Federal Protective Service officer Dave Underwood was killed. Authorities say it was a targeted attack on law enforcement.
This is ridiculous. These people are tearing up our livelihood.
So there you go. I apologize for the quality of the video on that. My internet connection's been really slow lately. So, I don't know what the deal is, but that's why I was taking it through that. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you because I thought that was really a good way to put it. And some of the comments down below, not nice, saying that Ted Cruz is lying because the majority are peaceful people. Well, here's the deal, though. If you have, let's say, you're part of a group of 10 people, and you find out that one of them is a mass murderer, does that make you any safer? I mean, it doesn't matter if, 8 other people in that group are really nice. You've got one person that's going to kill you if you turn your back on them. That's not great. And what happens is you've got these people that are rioting, and they're really endangering those who are protesters that are trying to be peaceful about it. I have no problems with peaceful protesters. What I do have a problem with is when they start breaking laws, like rioting and looting and hurting other people and damaging property. I do have problems with that. And that's what they're trying to show. And for some reason, the Democrats refuse to admit that there's that one mass murderer in the midst. There are people, and I'm not saying the rioters are mass murderers, but they are violent. And it doesn't matter if everybody else is peaceable. If you've got some violence in there, those are the people they need to stand against. And the ironic thing is, the police are actually protecting the peaceful protesters from those who are going to do violence. So the peaceful protesters, if they genuinely are peaceful, should be thanking the police for protecting them from the people that could hurt them. But that's not the way they view things. But I thought it was really good to know that this is what, some of the things that are going on in the Senate subcommittee here, this one on Antifa. I didn't listen to the whole subcommittee, but I wanted to share that portion with you. Well, here's something else I want to share with you, and this is from President Trump. Well, he was talking today and discussing Durham. It was on the Lou Dobbs show. So listen, he talks about breathtaking. Listen to this.
Breaking news tonight, President Trump telling us just moments ago on this broadcast what he is hearing about the Justice Department investigation of Obamagate.
We caught them spying. Now it's up to our Attorney General. As you know, I've wanted them to do it. I didn't want to get overly involved. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But I do hear it's breathtaking what they found. That's all I can say, breathtaking. And hopefully it'll come out soon. But it's beyond what anybody ever thought even possible, how bad it is. How bad it is and how corrupt it is. But I'm going to let them do that. I'm not going to do that. It's a horrible thing that took place, and it should never be allowed to happen to another president.
Did you catch where he was saying that it's now in Barr's hands? You know what that means to me? Durham's done. I sure hope sometime in this month we're going to see some fireworks, because I really think those need to take place. The arrests have to happen, and they should happen now instead of close to the election. So I think maybe in August, a couple of years ago, the 17th letter of the alphabet told us August is hot. And so I think maybe this is the August he was referring to. I hope it is. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you because Breathtaking really does add to it, and we're also reminded, somebody down in the comments was reminding us that it actually started way back. I mean, so this is not something that was current. It very likely could have a lot of, implications for earlier in the Obama administration. I mean, we know for sure that he was using the 702 queries illegally, the NSA database. He was querying that illegally. So we know that for sure. Who were the people that he contracted, the contractors that were doing it? Who contracted them out? Was it the John Brennan people? Maybe. We don't know for sure. But we do know that Obama knew about what was going on. And Obama was basically using his entire FBI and CIA, all the intel agencies. He was using them to get dirt on his own political rivals. So I think we need to have all this come out, and I sure hope from that it seems to indicate to me that now it's in Barr's hands, which means that it's all been taken care of. Durham has everything done. But I do also know that there was some delay because of the COVID restrictions and everything, and people being on a grand jury. So it could very well be that it still delayed a little bit. But like I said, from his wording there, it just seemed to me like he said, well, it's in Barr's hands now, so that would mean it was done. We'll see what happens, right? But I just thought I'd share that with you. I thought it was encouraging. And then I wanted to share this with you because, yes, we have General Charles Brown Jr. was formally sworn in today as the next Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force. Listen to this.
So thank you very much, everybody. This is very special. Charles Q. I like that. Q. Brown Jr. And your family is very proud of you. Your wife is very proud. Your sons are very proud. And I'm very proud.
But did you hear the guy's middle initial? And Trump made something about it, didn't he? Yep, definitely. Charles Q. Brown. Very interesting. And that was posted by the White House. They like doing little things like that every so often. All right, now a lot of the rest of these, I just have little snippets of different things, headlines maybe you saw, maybe you didn't. But let's go through some of them. This one right here, teachers bring coffins, guillotine, while protesting New York City schools reopening plan. This came out on the 3rd. And yeah, so these are teachers. This is a little scary to me, frankly. I think they have a better picture down here. Yeah, there. Yeah, so teachers, parents, and students. Yeah, I'm looking over that crowd wondering who's exactly who. And, so they had coffins and a guillotine and everything because they think they're going to die if they go back to school. People that are misleading everyone and putting out disinformation. You remember the difference between misinformation and disinformation, right? Misinformation is when you say something, you put information out there, and it ends up being wrong. That's misinformation. You didn't do it on purpose. It just ended up you were off on what you were saying. Disinformation, on the other hand, you know what you're saying is wrong and you put it out there anyway. And there's a lot of disinformation going out there right now, and it's scaring people like this. And then this is what they do because, of course, you know that when it comes to teachers, it's all about the kids, right? Okay, I can say that. I'm a retired teacher. I know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying they all are. A lot of teachers, there are many who just want to teach the kids. But there's an awful lot of people, too, that are part of the unions. And the unions, even though the unions have like 50-50 Republican Democrat membership, they predominantly put their money and their votes towards 95% Democrat candidates. So, you gotta know that it's not representing teachers. It's representing a small group of teachers, or maybe just half of them, that all think the same way, because you gotta think the right way, right? And you gotta protest because that's what you do. Yeah, I never would have protested. I never would have been that, because for me, it really wasn't about the money. It wasn't about anything else. It was about being able to talk to kids and to teach kids and to help them learn a new language. That to me was just the best part of my day. So, when it comes down to this, I just don't understand why these teachers, well, because they listen to predominantly mainstream media, and that's what the mainstream media is telling them. So let's go on. Anyway, look at this one. At work, our security takes our temp. The girl took my temperature and it was 106. Okay? Now, most people have common sense and they know that if it's 106, you're like not in the land of the living, or at least you're really, really, really bad off. She said, I'm not sick. Then she makes me wait. I said, you were going to make me late. I can't let you go in there sick. Me, take it again. She did, and it was normal. I would have been in a coma with 106 temperature. And that's so true. It's just like, have we lost our common sense when we're dealing with this? Why would somebody not see that number and go, something's wrong. Let's try that again. But evidently they didn't want to do that until she insisted. So don't let people push you around. Insist on it if you have to. That one was pretty obvious. Well, George Papa D here says the FBI raids today in Cleveland and Miami relate to this Kolomoisky. I'm not even going to try the first name. He owns Privat Bank, which is the controlling holder of Burisma. Yep, folks. One of the things that we learned from Barr's testimony was that he had yet another U.S. attorney was tasked at looking at something else. And that was the unmasking of General Flynn. So there's one looking into that. There's one looking into the origins of the whole thing. You had the one looking into the Flynn case. I just have a feeling, folks, that several U.S. attorneys all over the United States have been tasked with different investigations. And I think it's all going to start coming to a head very soon because they're finalizing their investigations. Now, we all know about Huber. I still think Huber is doing investigations. I mean, the guy has the Clinton Foundation. That's what he's been tasked with, that and the uranium one. There's a lot of stuff that he's probably had to uncover and to go through, and yeah. So I think he's been doing a lot of that work, and I just think that there are several U.S. attorneys that Jeff Sessions actually set in motion, okay? He was the one that set up Huber, and I believe he's the one that appointed Durham. So I really think that he started this ball rolling, and it's going to be coming together really soon because, yeah, things are going to happen. I really do think we're going to see some stuff. Well, this Privat Bank was the premier bank that was doing all the money laundering in, it wasn't Ukraine, it was Latvia. And then the Latvian bank started closing, so they ended up getting it into Ukraine, and they were supposed to be cleaning it up. Well, yeah. So this all has to do with the money laundering. It has to do with the Democrats. It has to do with Hunter Biden. All of this is all still there, and I'm sure it's being checked into as well. So this is being investigated. We know this one is too, because there was one that was tasked with doing Ukraine stuff. And, because they were trying to get Ukraine's people were trying to get the information to the U.S. Department of Justice, and it was being stopped all the time. So now they're pulling all that in. That was the stuff that Rudy Giuliani had. And so I'm just sure there are so many investigations going on like this that we just don't know about, because they are keeping it tight-lipped for a reason. They don't want any leaks. They want this trap to be sprung all at the same time. I've said this before. If you're trying to catch rats and you try to catch them one at a time, it's going to take forever, especially if there's a big infestation. So the best thing to do is to set a trap that's going to catch them all, so you catch them all at once. That way none of them get a chance to scamper away. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. And here's information about that. FBI raids offices at Downtown 1 Cleveland Center building tied to Ukrainian oligarch. And here's an article on that if you want to read more about it. So this should be interesting. I think so. Yep. They don't raid offices like that for no reason. Yeah. So something's going on. You got to wonder what. Well, Kayleigh McEnany posted this. Where is Hunter and where is Joe? One is hiding after a prosecutor was hired on his behalf. Another hiding in a basement. Neither fit to serve the American people. I agree with that. And you got to know, where is Hunter? That's still part of it. It's still going on. And that's going to be huge, that Joe Biden's going to have to deal with that. So, another thing they have to deal with. Well, speaking of Kayleigh McEnany, she had a really good press conference today, and she mentioned these things. I just wanted to point them out to you because I think this is really important information we need to be aware of. LA Mayor Eric Garcetti on police funding said, it starts someplace, and we say we are going to be who we want to be, or we're going to continue being the killers that we are. So, he makes this statement. He wants to defund the police. He proposed a cut of $150 million from the LAPD. And what's the result? 14% rise in homicides this year versus last year. So, it's definitely not something that is working. And then in Minneapolis, the city council member Jeremiah Ellison, I gotta wonder if he's related to Keith Ellison, said, this is one action of many that we need to take on the road to a more equitable and just system that keeps people safe. Keeps people safe, right? Okay. Defund, unanimous vote in the Minneapolis City Council to dismantle the police, and the result? 94% increase in homicides compared to last year. 94! That's huge. That is major. Oh, I don't know how people can see that this is what the result is. This is what happens when you defund the police. And then the last one was New York City. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says defunding the police means defunding the police. It does not mean budget tricks or funny math. Does she even know math? Okay, sorry. And then Mayor Bill de Blasio says, we think it's the right thing to do. So, defund. New York City Council cut police budget by $1 billion. And the result? 177% increase in shootings from July 2019. That's huge. So the solution is not to defund the police. It's to give them more money so they can have better training and employ more people to help out. But of course, that's not what they see. I'm going to leave the link to this down below. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can. I'm not sure what it's going to be. This was the live stream, and it started somewhere in here. An hour, 25 minutes in. So they had to sit and wait. Sometimes it would probably really suck to be the press, because they do end up sitting around waiting a lot, especially with Trump. He's never on time. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you as well. And then I wanted to show you this that the Anons came up with. And they said that you probably heard about the Beirut bombing thing, the big explosions. Well, this is what this person, I am Tori, says. What you missed, as FBI was raiding Ukraine-tied offices in Cleveland this morning, 2 cargo ships that just arrived from Ukraine to Beirut seem to be at the exact point of the blast. Totally not related. So, are they? Well, I don't know, but the boat fags here, they went through and they came up with the definitely, she's right about the boats. They were there. 14 vessels in port. You know, these guys do such a great job going through there. So, here's more of the information about the ships and everything. So, yes, she was right that the ships were there. So, what was going on with cargo ships that just arrived from Ukraine? Gotta wonder what happened, don't you? Anyway, so I wanted to share that with you. I don't know how that's going to connect in, or if, I would assume it just seems very coincidental. So we know about coincidences, right? Anyway, so I'll leave that down below so you can keep an eye on it. And then I wanted to show you this. This happened actually back, it's been a few days, maybe even a week ago now, but it was when I wasn't feeling real good. So I didn't go through it with you. But I want you to understand that this letter right here was pivotal. And it's been mentioned in a lot of news articles, a lot of people that are doing videos, are talking about it. So I wanted to make sure you had the document so you could read it yourself. But I want to read you just a little bit of it, because this Bari Weiss was one of the editors at the New York Times. And she's had her fill of it, because the cancel culture just got to be too much for her. And she says, "It's with sadness that I write to tell you that I'm resigning from the New York Times. I joined the paper with gratitude and optimism 3 years ago. I was hired with the goal of bringing in voices that would not otherwise appear in your pages. First-time writers, centrists, conservatives, and others who would not naturally think of the Times as their home. The reason for this effort was clear. The paper's failure to anticipate the outcome of the 2016 election meant that it didn't have a firm grasp of the country it covers." And that's so true. I mean, you look at a lot of this mainstream media, they have no clue about people like us. They really don't. They think that if they say enough bad things about Trump, that we're going to change our vote. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. I think it was Rush Limbaugh was saying that they don't understand that these Trump supporters, they'll crawl over broken glass to get there to vote for President Trump. And he's right, because we're not going to be stopped. We will show up, and most of us will show up in person probably. And then she thanks a bunch of people and talks about, them. And then she goes on and says, "But the lessons that ought to have followed the election, lessons about the importance of understanding other Americans, the necessity of resisting tribalism, and the centrality of the free exchange of ideas to a democratic society, have not been learned. Instead, a new consensus has emerged in the press, but perhaps especially at this paper, that truth isn't a process of collective discovery, but an orthodoxy already known to an enlightened few whose job it is to inform everyone else." Twitter is not on the masthead of the New York Times, but Twitter has become its ultimate editor. As the ethics and mores of that platform have become those of the paper itself has increasingly become a kind of performance space. Stories are chosen and told in a way to satisfy the narrowest of audiences, rather than to allow a curious public to read about the world and then draw their own conclusions. I was always taught that journalists were charged with writing the first rough draft of history. Now, history itself is one more ephemeral thing molded to fit the needs of a predetermined narrative. You gotta understand that she's just waking up. This is someone who has finally seen the reality and saying, I've had enough of this. I'm not going to do this anymore. My own forays into wrongthink have made me the subject of constant bullying by colleagues who disagree with my views. They have called me a Nazi and a racist. I have learned to brush off comments about how I'm writing about the Jews again. Several colleagues perceived to be friendly with me were badgered by coworkers. My work and my character are openly demeaned on company-wide Slack channels where masthead editors regularly weigh in. There, some coworkers insist I need to be rooted out if this company is to be a truly inclusive one. I don't think they understand the word inclusive. This is so funny. But this is what they do. I mean, she's telling the truth here. While others post axe emojis next to my name, still other New York Times employees publicly smear me as a liar and a bigot on Twitter with no fear that harassing me will be met with appropriate action. They never are. There are terms for all of this: unlawful discrimination, hostile work environment, and constructive discharge. I'm no legal expert, but I know that this is wrong. Anyway, then when she goes on, I mean, it really is worth reading the whole thing here. If you go down here, she says, the paper of record is, more and more, the record of those living in a distant galaxy, one whose concerns are profoundly removed from the lives of most people. This is a galaxy in which, to choose just a few recent examples, the Soviet space program is lauded for its diversity. The doxing of teenagers in the name of justice is condoned, and the worst caste systems in human history includes the United States alongside Nazi Germany. Even now, I am confident that most people at the Times do not hold these views, yet they are cowed by those who do. Why? Perhaps because they believe the ultimate goal is righteous. Perhaps because they believe that they will be granted protection if they nod along as the coin of our realm, language, is degraded in service to an ever-shifting laundry list of right causes. Or should we say left causes, right? Perhaps because there are millions of unemployed people in this country and they feel lucky to have a job in a contracting industry. Or perhaps it is because they know that nowadays standing up for principle at the paper does not win plaudits. It puts a target on your back. Too wise to post on Slack, they write to me privately about the new McCarthyism that has taken root at the paper of record. And then she goes on, all this bodes ill, especially for independent-minded young writers and editors paying close attention to what they'll have to do to advance in their careers. Rule 1, speak your mind at your own peril. Rule 2, never risk commissioning a story that goes against the narrative. Rule 3, never believe an editor or publisher who urges you to go against the grain. Eventually, the publisher will cave to the mob, the editor will get fired or reassigned, and you'll be hung out to dry. So, I mean, it really is a very well put together piece, but, I gotta agree with her, but she just doesn't understand how this has been working for years and years and years. She's just now waking up to it and saying, this should not happen. Well, guess what? Yeah, we've been saying it for years, and y'all all told us it was a conspiracy theory. But it's not. This cancel culture mob is just doing it to everyone. And they don't care who you are. If you say anything out of line, they're going to come after you. And it's about time some of the people on the left started waking up to this reality. Well, this one is one of them. And then here's another one. This one was from a couple days ago. And the personal news, why I'm now leaving MSNBC. And she does this quote by James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. And if you go down here, there's a lot of story that she tells about it. And then, but behind closed doors, industry leaders will admit the damage that's being done. We are a cancer and there is no cure. A successful and insightful TV veteran said to me, but if you could find a cure, it would change the world. As it is, this cancer stokes national division, even in the middle of a civil rights crisis. The model blocks diversity of thought and content because the networks have incentive to amplify fringe voices and events at the expense of others. all because it pumps up the ratings. Yeah, remember salacious? Yeah, salacious things. This cancer risks human lives, even in the middle of a pandemic. The primary focus quickly became what Donald Trump was doing poorly to address the crisis, rather than the science itself. As new details have become available about antibodies, a vaccine, or how COVID actually spreads, producers still want to focus on the politics. Important facts or studies get buried. This cancer risks our democracy, even in the middle of a presidential election. Any discussion about the election usually focuses on Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. A repeat offense from 2016. Trump smothers out all other coverage. You bet he does. And really, this was what Trump was so good at. He got so much free press just because they had to cover what he was doing or things he said. That he is a master of getting free press. Really he is. And so it goes on. Also important to ensure citizens can vote by mail this year. Well, but I've watched that topic get ignored or killed numerous times. So see, even some of their pet projects are not getting out there. And this is probably what's waking up some of these liberals, because they're starting to see that, if they just don't do things exactly the way that the powers that be say, then their voice doesn't count either. And they don't like it when their voice doesn't count. Of course, it was okay when, all of us conservatives were saying our voices were being silenced. That was okay because it was conservative voices. But now, guess who's being silenced? And they're not happy about it. Now, this is a phrase right here that I thought was just showing how liberals think. Context and factual data are often considered too cumbersome for the audience. In other words, y'all too stupid to understand us, because we smart. But just no. How about trying it? Context and factual data. What a concept. Why don't you try that? It actually does work. When you include those, then, it's not too cumbersome for us. We're not stupid. We can figure it out. But, oh no, they don't want to do that because it's not right. Now, this part, again, I don't agree with this person necessarily, but I do think that, she is starting to wake up. She's starting to see that this whole culture that's out there that's controlling and even choking off our news is not good. It's not good for a democracy. So, anyway, I'll leave this down below. And she accuses them of pretty much deciding what to put on just because of money. What can they make more money off of? And that's not necessarily untrue because, Big Pharma, actually watch just how many commercials there are for Big Pharma. Yeah, most of these products, most of the news organizations have an awful lot of Big Pharma money coming to them. And if they do things, they report on things that the, people that are sponsoring all these ads, if they don't like it, then guess what's going to happen? Yeah, they pull their money. And if they pull their money, then what happens to the show? So that's something that, they have to remember this is what's going on. And this really is what's driving what we see as news. Because the decisions are being made. What's going to make us the most money? Kind of scary that that's what our press has come down to. But anyway, I'll leave the link to this one down below. This is Ariana Pekary or I'm not sure how her last name is pronounced, but this is her website. So I will leave that and you can read the full thing if you want to. Well, this I thought was very interesting because the evidence that has come out now shows that George Floyd had a lot of fentanyl in him. I mean, he had a lethal dose is the problem. And the officers, there's just some suspicious stuff about this, folks, because supposedly he knew one of the officers, But during the whole part that I saw, which is before he was down on the ground, you know, they were talking as if they had no clue who each other was. So if they actually worked together at that nightclub thing or whatever it was, strip joint, wouldn't there have been some recognition between them? Even if the guy is high, well, maybe not him, but the officer should have indicated that he knew him. So I don't know. But it does look like, according to the transcripts and according to the body cams that have now been released, it appears to me that he was already really out of things, and they were not out of line. The officers were not out of line. They were just trying to get him into the back seat, and he got into the back seat, and he was saying he couldn't breathe even then, and he kind of crawled out, and yeah, so you'd have to watch the whole thing, but he was out of his mind on drugs. He really was. He wasn't coherent. Kind of sounded like Joe Biden. No. But he was saying he couldn't breathe when he was in the back of the car. So it was not... I think that what we've seen have been... things have been taken out of context. So we've not really seen it in context. And as I understand it, Keith Ellison, who is the AG in Minnesota, was the one who was withholding some of this evidence, which would have altered people's opinions on what actually happened, I think, somewhat. So anyway, I just thought I would share that one with you. I'll leave the link down below. And then evidently Maryland here, the governor says the county officials can't stop schools from reopening. So this is a good news actually for Maryland, kind of surprising, but he basically said, you know, you can't do this, and I'm going to make an order that keeps you from stopping these schools from opening. So I thought that was a good thing. And so, like I said, it kind of surprises me. Most of them on the East Coast are, saying they don't want to open schools, but this is kind of good. So there you go. I'll leave that down below so you can read that one. And then I wanted to show you this because guess the Queen and Prince Philip are taking off to Balmoral, and I got to be honest, I don't know where that's at. But they're going to have a summer staycation because they've been cooped up in Windsor. How awful. You're cooped up in a castle. What a torture, huh? But check this out. Look at Prince Philip. Look at the shiners. Look at those shiners. 2 shiners. Wonder what Prince Philip's been doing to get 2 black eyes. And don't you think that'd be worthy of, like, news? You know, you see somebody like this and you see him with 2 black eyes, don't you think you'd be asking some questions? But I guess not. I guess they don't care. Anyway, and then I'm going to end with this one, which has to do with Georgia. Georgia here is an interesting case because it just blows all of their lockdown theories out of the water. You know, they were the last ones to lock down, and they were the first ones to open up, and yet their numbers are good. So if all that is, I mean, I'm sure that the liberals are none too happy with this because Georgia defies the odds. It is so totally different from what people were saying was going to happen. Oh, they're going to have a horrible time. And, you know, the media freaked out on both ends of the lockdown. They browbeat Kemp until he issued the stay-at-home order. Then they were predicting doom and gloom upon reopening. And it didn't happen. It did not happen. When the apocalypse didn't happen, all of a sudden Georgia fell off the media's radar. Have you been hearing much about it? But then what happened in Georgia? Oh yeah, all of a sudden there was an incident and all of the Black Lives Matter people went there. And like 2 weeks to the day, all of a sudden people start getting sick. What do they want to blame it on? No, they don't want to blame it on the riots. They want to blame it on something that happened before that, which was the opening. Oh, it's because they opened too soon. No, it was because a bunch of these Black Lives Matter people came down here and they got people sick. That was the whole thing. So I thought this was a very interesting article. I'll leave it down below and you can read on that one too. And that's what I've got for you on this one. Hey, if you know some small Patriot channels, could you drop the link in the comments below? Or at least just tell me what their channel name is. So yeah, I want to give shout outs to smaller channels, but I really haven't had a time or energy to be looking around for them. So if you could help me out with that, that would be great. Leave me, don't just drop some kind of URL in there because I won't know what it is. Tell me why. Tell me why you think I need to give a shout out to that particular person. What do you like about them? You follow. If you follow them, then why do you follow them? So let me know. I want to stick to the smaller channels, like people that are under 25,000 or definitely under 50,000. So if you can let me know that would be really great. I'd appreciate that help. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.